Welcome to another truth you were never meant to see. This isn't about scars on skin. This is about wounds no one talks about, because sometimes the deepest damage doesn't show up on your body. It lives in your thoughts, in what you were taught to believe about yourself. This is that story. They never raised their hand, but they lowered your confidence. They never shouted, but you still flinched at kindness. They never hit you, but they still hurt you. They didn't punish you physically. They punished you emotionally. They used silence as a weapon. They used disappointment as a leash. You were trained to apologize for needing love, taught that asking for help meant you were weak. You stopped crying, not because you healed, but because it didn't matter. You weren't told you were unlovable. You were made to feel it. They rolled their eyes when you opened up. They smiled when you stayed quiet. They made you believe that peace only came through your silence. So you shrank. You made yourself smaller, easier, softer. You thought survival meant disappearing. They praised you when you stopped asking questions, when you stopped having needs, when you stopped being real, and you thought that was maturity. But it was just submission. They didn't break your bones. They rewired your self-worth. They planted shame in your heart. They dressed control as love. They called gaslighting just a misunderstanding. They made you question your own memories until you believed their version of reality. They didn't want honesty. They wanted compliance. You learned how to read the room, not to connect, but to stay safe. You smiled at pain. You made jokes out of trauma, because that was easier than not being believed. You told yourself it wasn't that bad, because comparing scars felt like healing. But your scars were invisible, emotional, mental, and real. Now you're learning that boundaries aren't betrayal, that saying no isn't selfish, that taking up space is not aggression. You are unlearning their beliefs. You are rewriting your own truth. You are allowed to speak, to feel, to exist loudly. You were never too much. You were just too real for people who preferred illusions. You don't need to explain your pain. You just need to believe it. They trained you to hate your voice, but now you're using it. And that is rebellion. You no longer shrink yourself to make them feel tall. You no longer wait for permission to feel. Your emotions are valid, without a stamp of approval. Your boundaries are not up for negotiation. They may label you cold now. They may say you've changed. But change is survival. Change is truth. Change is power. They liked you quiet, because quiet was predictable, because quiet didn't challenge them. But now you ask questions. You raise eyebrows. You walk away instead of begging, and that terrifies them, because they lost control. They romanticized your silence, told you were so chill when you weren't okay. They praised your ability to hold it in, but now you release. You cry without shame. You speak without fear. You walk without looking back. This is not rebellion. This is resurrection. Your voice is not loud. It's clear. Your truth is not dangerous. It's necessary. And anyone who fears your power was never worthy of it. So keep rising. Keep speaking. Keep reclaiming every part of yourself that they told you to hide. Because silence may have kept you safe, but your voice will set you free. Speak, even when your hands shake, even when your voice cracks, even when the room grows quiet. Because truth has never needed permission to exist. You are not too much. You are not too loud. You are not too emotional. You are exactly what this world tried to bury. A wildfire they couldn't contain. For every time you were told to sit still, to stay quiet, to not disturb the peace. Remember, their peace was built on your silence. And now, you rise not just for yourself. You rise for the girl who still hides in the back of the classroom. For the boy who was told that crying is weakness. For the ones whose names were mispronounced, whose dreams were laughed at, whose stories were never believed. You rise for every no that should have been a yes. For every wait that turned into never. For every door slammed shut simply because you dared to knock. Speak with rage. Speak with tenderness. Speak with the power of every ancestor who was silenced. Let your voice be the thunder that cracks open the sky. Let it be the song that calls others home to themselves. Because you are not a whisper in the corner of a room. You are the room. You are the roar. You are the revolution they've been fearing. And even when the world isn't listening, speak anyway, because the moment you begin to speak is the moment you begin to live. Not the version they shaped, but the one that's been waiting inside you all along. So keep rising, again and again. Even if your knees are bruised, even if your heart is tired, even if the world pretends not to see you, keep rising, because freedom was never a gift. It was always a fight. Thank you for watching this story of unseen wounds and rising truth. Not all damage is visible, but healing always is. You were never the problem. You were just too powerful to be controlled quietly. And now, you're not silent anymore.